Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We are going to discuss the placings from this year's Bikini Olympia. And if you look here, this is actually footage from the Arnold, which ended up being pretty similar. So what I'm going to do is go over the placings, name the 10th through 5th placings, all while you get to look at some footage. I was able to get some pretty good seats thanks to my sponsor, Core Nutritionals, reached out to the people and got us some VIP seats up in the good spot so I could get some decent footage of these girls. So while you're looking at Lauralie, let's talk a little bit about the placing. So in 10th was Marcia Goncalves, and then in 9th you had Maureen Blanquisco, in 8th Etila, Santiago, probably the most muscular competitor in the division. In 7th we had Jennifer Ronzitti, and in 6th ended up with Ashley Kaltwasser. But before we get to the top 5, let's talk a little bit about expectations for this show. I think going into it, I think it was pretty much in my mind going to be a battle between 3 people. Angelica Teixeira, the former champ who took the entire year off. This young lady right here, Janet Layug. And then you've also got Elisa Pecini, who basically last year at this show, Janet got a 3rd place finish, and here is Isa, who got 2nd. So they had a history on this stage of, competing against each other. Fast forward to March, and Janet won both the Arnold, Ohio, and Australia. So I think a lot of that, coupled with, the changes this year and some of the conditioning and the rules, it led me to believe that this was going to be Janet's year on stage. And so what I was really curious to see was what they kind of did with the girls as far as conditioning and shape. And I got to say, I was really pleased. I think for a little bit there, the conditioning in the division was getting a little overboard. They were coming in really, really lean. And now they've found that nice balance where muscle fullness plays a big role. And for anyone that knows anything about me, I'm big on, athletes having full muscle bellies on stage. And so, the depleted skinny look is no longer going to cut it with these girls. They need to be lean, but they also need to be full and have great shape in their muscles. So what they got to here was the first call out. And basically the first call out was the top 6. And for anyone that's been to a show this year, typically what they do is they put the girls closer to the middle that are going to place higher. So for example, in a group of 6, the 2 in the middle would be either 1 or 2. The 2 to the outside of that would be either 3 or 4. And the 2 to the outside of that would be either 5 or 6. And so that's how prejudging would play out. This was your initial group of 6. And after a couple poses, they move Isa into the middle, moving Lauralie out. And so that set up what was going to be basically the championship. It indicated pretty early on that Angelica was not going to be repeating, as she was kept on the outside of the center. Always things can change. Nothing is finalized until they make the announcement. But what I really liked here was they really took their time, and these girls work incredibly hard all year. So you want to make sure that you get up there and you get compared. And they really made it clear that they were looking at each girl, comparing them to each other, as well as, the ones around them, because the most important part of judging is getting it right. Okay, they don't want to be in a rush. And sometimes I think even at the Olympia, there were so many competitors competing at this event. It's the first time I can remember on a finals night when every champion that was crowned was a new champion. The guy that won men's physique, he was not the repeat champion, Raymond. And then the guy that won classic physique, Chris Bumstead, he was not. He beat Brian, who was the 2-time defending champ. And then if you look at the call out here, so what they did was they moved Jennifer Dorie into the 5-6 position all the way on the left, and they brought Angelica into the 3-4 position, just right of Isa there. And so the night had an interesting feel because there was already so many new champions. And in my mind, it was going to be Janet's momentum that was going to get her the win. But if you had to ask me who had the best physique of the ones I've seen in person, I would have said Isa. I think, if you look at her front pose right here, it's just crazy. She has great shape, great muscle. Her core is super tight, but she doesn't have like shredded abs. she's just a really good blend, and full glutes, not completely etched in from the back. And so that's one thing that I did notice this year. I feel like the conditioning is not as crazy as it has been in the past. And then what they did was they brought out this call out. So this is the final 4. So basically, after all the call outs, they brought these 4 ladies out. What this told us was that this was your top 4, and that they were looking at these girls to compare them for 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it's nice when they do this, when they separate the pack, because it gives the audience, at least in my mind, maybe just from my experience of going to so many shows, but it gives me the opportunity to go, okay, this is who it's between. And then again, what they did was they moved Janet and Isa into the middle, 1, 2, and then now you have Lauralie and Angelica on the outside. So I think this was a pretty clear indication, because they did the same thing in the first call out of 6, and in a minute you're going to see why it was a super clear indication. And the one thing I really like about this Olympia was it felt like there was a lot of new people getting wins. And sometimes with these shows, sometimes Phil Heath is winning Olympia year after year. Sid still won the figure title, but it definitely felt like a battle with Latoria. And sometimes what you don't want to see is just somebody just assuming they're going to win. And it really felt like that. And so they did one final call out, which made it super clear that Angelica was not going to be repeating. And they just brought out Isa, and they just brought out Janet. And I apologize for the footage. I was trying to watch and film at the same time. This is actually from my camera. So yeah, this was it. This was the final call out of the day. So you knew it was between these two on Saturday morning, and then they would come back Saturday night. And so I actually got footage from the announcement when they put Janet in second place. So this is Janet getting announced in second place from the live stream. I just grabbed the recording. And what this meant was that Isa was going to win the title. She was going to be Miss Bikini Olympia. Angelica ended up in third. There she is. There's Angelica in third. Lauralie ended up in fourth, and Jennifer Dorie in fifth. So a lot of upward movement. Lauralie was second last year, and I think a lot of people expected her to go in and win the Arnold. She didn't do that. She changed some things, but it seems like she's corrected the ship. So she got sixth at the Arnold, and now she's moved her way back up into that top 5 at the Olympia. And I think next year she's going to be, it's going to be Lauralie and Jennifer and Angelica and Janet and Isa again, as long as everything keeps going. The interesting thing, Ashley Kaltwasser got moved out of the top 5 into 6th. She's always a contender, great physique. The sport is evolving, and so I think these girls are going to be paying attention to what's going on. Obviously the genetics and the muscularity and all the things that go into competing at this level are insane, right? But even if you take what you're doing at this level and look at it and apply it to a local show, making sure your hair, your makeup, your stage, your presentation is all on point. That's one thing. When you come to these shows and see this, they're so polished. So hopefully you guys like the review video. I appreciate you guys listening. Congratulations to Elisa Pecini. After seeing her in person at Clash, I knew she was going to be an Olympia winner at some point. I thought that reign would start next year, and I have a feeling she's going to have quite a few under her belt if she keeps just going like this. All right, guys, have a great day.